What is up? It's Ethan with Three Wine Sports. Today I wanted to do a little recap of last night's game between the Suns and the Clippers. It was a very interesting game, and not sure how many game recaps I'm going to do, especially for teams that I'm not a big fan of. I like the Suns, but I'm not a big fan of the Clippers. I like Kawhi. That's about it, and he's not playing, so I don't like to talk about the Clippers all that much. But I feel like it's important because it's a conference final game, and it was also a really good game, very interesting game. So I want to talk about it. Um, there was a lot of things that stuck out to me. Obviously the Suns picked up the win in the end. It was crazy ending, and I'll get to that. But the to leading up to that ending, a lot of stuff had to play out for it to end like how it did. So I want to talk about a couple things for each team. Let's start with the Clippers because they lost. Paul George played bad. Now that's not a sentence that is uncommon to hear come playoff time, but he's been pretty good these playoffs. Not the beginning, but against the Jazz, especially in the end, he showed out. And in the first game against the Suns, he played really well. Of course, Devin Booker also played really well, and that's why the Suns won. But in the first game, Paul George played very well. I mean, like really good. So you would expect him to come back in this game knowing that they can't go down 2-0 again, especially if Kawhi doesn't come back. Let's say he doesn't. They need Kawhi to come back, especially when they're down 2-0. They've shown, Kawhi especially has shown, that when you're down 2-0, it doesn't really matter when the best player on the court is on your team. But when Kawhi is out, the best player on the court may not be on the Clippers. Anyway, Paul George played bad. He shot really bad. He didn't make a three-pointer until the fourth quarter, which is a total contrast to the first game when he was knocking him down all night. And I'm so confused. He confuses me so much because he's obviously a really good player, and even shooting as bad as he did tonight, he had 26 points, and he made big shots at the end. He couldn't seal it away, obviously, and I'll talk about that. But he made a couple big shots, a big layup that put him up by one, and then a mid range right after Devin Booker hit a mid range that put him up by one. That kind of set the whole ending into motion. He has that clutch gene even when he's playing bad. Why can't he do that all night? He's been in the league forever. He's been an all-star forever. MVP candidate, never won it, but he's been there. Why does he struggle so much when it matters? Not when it really matters, because come into the game, he's pretty good. But for the whole game, if he didn't play that bad, if he played good like he did in the first game, the Clippers win this game. You know why? Because Devin Booker also played bad. And when Devin Booker plays bad for the Suns and they don't have Chris Paul, then they're probably in a world of hurt. However, tonight, the Clippers also played bad, so the Suns caught a break. It was still close in the end, you know. If I'm Paul George, maybe I'm thinking, yeah, I played bad tonight, but it was still really close. If I play good, we might win. But then you look across the court and you're like, Devin Booker also played bad. You can't expect him to play bad every night, especially as good as he's been playing in his first ever playoff appearance. This is crazy. So the Clippers had to rely on, of course, Paul George's scoring, but he shot bad, so it was inefficient all night. And then Reggie Jackson keeps showing that he may just be the best player on the Clippers. That's a joke, but he's been very good. Luke Kennard was good in the fourth quarter. Zubac was pretty valuable. DeAndre Ayton just eats the small ball lineup alive. He just eats them alive. He's good. He's too good offensively. I wouldn't say he's elite offensively. He's not one of the top 3 or 4 best offensive centers in the league. But when you put him up against a small ball lineup where he's getting guarded by Nick Batum, or I mean, really, that's about it. Nick Batum. Who else would be on 8? Yeah, I mean, Nick Batum is the biggest guy they have in their small ball lineup. Paul George even a couple times. I remember that got matched up against Ayton. Ayton's just gonna eat him alive. He's just gonna eat him alive. He's too big and too strong. Uh, they need to have Zubac on the floor more. If they're worried about Ayton, they need to have Zubac more on the floor. If they think they can just take the punches from him and slow down Booker or a guy like Payne, who I'll talk about in a second, then maybe play your small ball, right? Because that helps your offense. But Zubac isn't bad offensively. I think they need to play the bigger lineup more often just to slow down Ayton, because I don't think that the small ball lineup is giving them enough right now to make up for the loss that they're taking when Ayton is just absolutely destroying them with points and with rebounds, and the Suns getting second chance points. They're just getting mauled. Um, Ayton played very good, obviously, like 20 points, bunch of rebounds, and obviously at the end he came in clutch. But the real the real thing for the Suns tonight was Devin Booker played bad and Cameron Payne stepped up. When Devin Booker plays bad and the Suns don't have Chris Paul, you're like, well, who do they have, right? Mikal Bridges and DeAndre Ayton. Jay Crowder might put up double-digit points, but for the most part, they really need Devin Booker to play good if Chris Paul's not playing, because DeAndre Ayton's good. Obviously, Mikal Bridges is good. You can't rely on them every night to put up big numbers. DeAndre Ayton obviously came through tonight with a good stat line, but not every night you're not going to be able to rely on that. So Cameron Payne coming in, and he's been really good in these playoffs, but no one really expected this. He was incredible. Cameron Payne put up, 29 points, 9 assists. He was the best player on the Suns all night. And I think that ending is going to take away from people remembering how good Cameron Payne was, because they're only going to remember the ending in a couple years. Cameron Payne was incredible. He was the best player on the floor tonight. And it's really great to see that, because of his whole trajectory in the league, being the handshake guy for the Thunder, with Russell Westbrook not getting playing time for the Bulls and going to the G League. And I don't know if he ever went overseas or if he just stayed in the G League. He probably went overseas. It's hard to keep up with those guys when they're not in the NBA. And then he comes back in, and it shows you how good of a front office that the Suns have to be able to bring a guy in like Cameron Payne, who's going to come out there in a playoff game when it matters and play better than Paul George. I mean, that's crazy. They also picked up Jay Crowder from the Heat. He's huge for them. The front office in the Suns is either the best or the second best front office in the league. I love to give OKC credit. That they do an amazing job over there. But the Suns may have them beat. They're obviously in a better position right now. But I think without that, the whole team as a whole, you like to look at the players. I think without that front office, the Suns are not where they are today. The signing of Chris Paul, huge. Picking up Jay Crowder. And they've had Cam Payne for a little bit now, but he's really blossoming. He's getting confidence. And tonight it showed. That's the most I got for the majority of the game. Now, for the ending is a totally different story. Obviously, Devin Booker had a broken nose, so he played bad. But, maybe we'll see Mask Booker in the next game, and he'll be really good. That would be cool. The ending of this game was crazy. It was a really good playoff basketball ending. I hate when they have to keep checking the replay to see whose ball is, but I know it's important in a time like that. So you have to sit there and kind of deal with it. So 30 seconds turns into like 20 minutes. But Paul George missing those free throws may be the biggest blunder in his playoff career, or even his career in general. This is the closest Paul George has ever gotten to a championship. This might be his last chance at one for all we know. Kawhi might be gone next year. So missing those free throws and going down 2-0 without Kawhi, because you don't know how he's going to be when he comes back, if he comes back, when he comes back, was just horrible. How do you miss those 2 free throws? He's not a bad free throw shooter. He's not crazy good. He's not shooting 90%, but he's not bad. And in a time like that, after making such a good shot, like one possession earlier, you're going to miss those 2 free throws. It confuses me. I really don't get it. Obviously, he missed those 2 free throws. They're still up by 1 when they could have been up by 3. If they'd have been up by 3, this game would have been over, obviously, because Mikal Bridges goes down and he misses that 3, and it goes out with like .9 left. And then obviously the play of the game happens when Monty Williams puts together one of the greatest inbound plays I've ever seen. And that screen on Zubac to give Ayton just enough time. Who did that? Jay Crowder? No, I think it was Mikal Bridges. It may have been Jay Crowder, though, but I think it was Mikal Bridges. Set that screen, gave Ayton just enough time to dip that ball in. Because that's not a trap. That's not a goaltending, because it's not a live ball, so it's technically not a shot. And so Ayton just had to kind of tap it in. And he's, again, so much bigger than this Clippers team. Even Zubac was like this far away from getting a hand on that ball. It didn't matter, So that leaves what 0.7 seconds on the clock for the Clippers. Aren't going to get a full court pass in 0.7 seconds. They lose. The Clippers are down 2-0. The Suns look really good without Chris Paul and with Devin Booker playing bad, and they win this game. That's crazy, dude. If you had told me that Devin Booker was going to break his nose and play as bad as he did in this game, and that the Suns would still win, I would have told you were stupid, because they really don't have a guy after Devin Booker when Chris Paul is out that's going to put up numbers like that. Cameron Payne was that guy. DeAndre Ayton was that guy. And in the end, the Suns took the 2-0 lead. So that's the recap. When do they play again? So they play again Thursday, I'd assume. That's without checking it, so don't quote me on that. But if the Hawks-Bucks game is really good, I'll do a recap on that as well. So like this video, subscribe to the channel, and more will be out soon.